I will chant some preliminary mantras for purification and invocation, and then I will begin speaking tonight's topic. I'm Gurave Namaha. Om Parama Gurave Namaha. Gan Pataye Namo Namaha. Hung Hunamate Namaha. Om Bhagavati Durga Devi Namaha. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Sing Subhadraya Namaha. Om Gopijana Vallabhaya Namaha. Kling Nityanandaya Namaha. Kling Goraya Namaha. Shraung Nrsinghaya Namaha. Shring Kling Radha Krishnabhyam Namaha. Sing Rang Sita Ramabhyam Namaha. So we just chanted Mula mantras, offering our obeisances to all the deities that we have on our altar. Om Apavitra Pavitro Va Sarva Avastangatopi Va Yat Smaret Pundarika Akshang Sabaya Abhyantara Shuchihi Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu, Shri Vishnu. This Vedic mantra points out that when it comes to the name of God, Vishnu, there's no question of being pure or impure, or wherever you have been or whatever you have done in your life. If you can simply remember Lord Krishna, who has lotus-like eyes, then simply by remembering the Lord, you are purified within and without. Now, two mantras glorifying my spiritual master. Om Ajnana Timarandasya Jnana Anjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitan Yena Tasmat Sri Gurave Namaha. This mantra points out that upon birth I was born in the darkness of ignorance. But upon approaching my spiritual master, receiving initiations from him, and by his instructions, his constant instructions, day after day, since 1973, I am now opening my eyes with the torch of knowledge. Mukam karoti vachalang pangong langhayate girim yat kripa tamahang bande Sri Gurung Dinacharanam Yat Kripa Tamahang Bande Parama Ananda Madhavam Trinadapi Sunichena Taror Iva Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Hare Nama Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam. Kalau nastyeva, nastyeva, nastyeva gatir anyata. The goal of my life is to be always able and always tasting the holy name of Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that the easiest, simplest way to access the chanting of the holy name is to follow four principles. Number one, to feel oneself lower than a blade of grass. To feel oneself lower than the straw in the street. And to try to be tolerant, even more tolerant than the tree. And to give respect to all others, because Krishna resides in everyone's heart. And I have to throw away any kinds of thinking of my own personal aggrandizement and glorification. If I can follow these four principles of Lord Chaitanya, then Kirtaniya Sada Hari. Now we chant these sacred 12-syllable mantra. Please repeat. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So our sponsor, our host tonight is Veena and Prem Gupta. They are currently making the food which will be offered to the Lord and distributed as prasad after the artik at 7 o'clock. So the instruction I was given for the topic is, can you connect spiritual learning to improve one's day-to-day life? And that is a resounding yes. That is the whole purpose of all the Vedic scriptures. The purpose of the Vedic scriptures is to give information how one can elevate, how one can promote, how one can advance to a higher stage of consciousness. First, we have to understand some basic principles. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, it is stated, Asato ma sad gama. Do not stay in illusion. Go to the eternal reality. Tamasi ma jyotir gama. Come out of the darkness. Go to the light. Mrito ma. Do not keep taking on material bodies. Amrita gamaha. Become immortal. Now, that might sound contradictory, because anyone who has read Bhagavad Gita knows that Krishna's first lesson is that you are eternal. So why does this Vedic mantra say become immortal? Why? The soul is already immortal. So when it says become immortal, it means stop the cycle of samsara, end the cycle of repeated birth and death. Yes, as long as I have a material body, I have to keep on dying and being reborn again. So the actual goal is to become free from all repeated birth and death. We call that moksha, liberation. Now, we also have another such similar statement in the Katha Upanishad. The four Vedas deal mostly with this material world. But the Upanishads, there are 108 Upanishads, they deal with what is beyond the material cosmic manifestation. We call that transcendence, that which is beyond the scope of our senses. So there are 108 Upanishads which deal with this topic of Brahman, which is beyond this cosmic manifestation. Uttishta Jagrata Prapya Varan Nibodhat. Shurasya Dara Nishita Duratyaya Durgang Papastat Kabayo Vadanti. You'll notice that I take great pleasure in reciting Vedic mantras and shlokas. I joined this Krishna consciousness movement in 1973 at the age of 23. And immediately I had a connection, some attraction for Sanskrit, because the Vedic literatures are composed in Sanskrit. And so right away, I found this language very attractive. And the reason why it's called Sanskrit is that by reciting Sanskrit words, especially shlokas, you improve your character. And that is the business of the human form of life. Improve yourself. So what is the meaning of this mantra? Oh, sleeping soul, please wake up and try to understand the boon which you now have in this human form of life. The path of spiritual realization is very difficult. It is sharp like a razor's edge. That is the opinion of learned transcendental scholars. So these two shlokas, you can see the origin of what they call now woke philosophy. Originally, it is coming from the Vedas, because that is the whole purpose, to wake up, come out of ignorance, come out of illusion. We're going to talk more about that, and become self-realized. That is the purpose. The very first aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Therefore, very first shloka begins with the word therefore. Therefore, since you find yourself in the human form of life, as opposed to animals and lower, your priority is inquiry into God, into spiritual life. I was not raised Hindu. I was raised Roman Catholic Christian for the first 20 years of my life. But I always believed in God. Even from the age of 5, I was born with that faith. I knew there was God, and I had faith in Him. And I was surprised, actually. I went to 13 years of Catholic school, 8 years grade school, 4 years high school. And when I got to high school, I was surprised to find other students who did not believe in God, even though they were in a Catholic school, they grew up. So I was surprised, because I always believed in God. And then, when I came introduced in 1972, I was introduced to this Vedas, Bhagavad Gita. I could see, this is what I have been looking for. My Catholic religion just has a little bit of knowledge of God. They don't even know what He looks like. But in the Vedic literatures, so much detailed information about God. And the form of God is very clear there. Front and center, Radha Krishna. No vague concept. And the descriptions are there, detailed descriptions about God. So that is why, since 1973, every day I study these Vedic scriptures, because I want my knowledge of God to become more complete and more solid. Faith. Faith is the beginning, but that faith needs to be strengthened by hearing from the spiritual master and associating with devotees. If you don't associate with devotees, your faith will dwindle little by little. If you don't associate with saintly religious people, you will become infected by bad qualities. Association is crucial. That's why my favorite bhajan, Bhaja Hure Mana Sri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanaravindare Durlabha Manava Janama Satsange Taroho E Bhava Sindhure Durlabha Manava Janma. Same thing this Upanishad shloka said. Human birth is rarely achieved. There are 8,400,000 different kinds of material bodies. 8 million lower than human. And in the so-called human category, the number of civilized, we call those people Aryans. They are called civilized. Why? Because they follow the rules and regulations of the Vedas. This will be pointed out coming up later in my talk. So now we have some verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. The sages of Naimisharanya, they have assembled and they want to hear the glories of the Lord, Srimad Bhagavatam. And they have their guru, Sutta Goswami. And Sutta Goswami is answering their questions. So in the course of answering the sages' questions, Sutta says, Dharma Svanushtita Pungsang Vishvaksena Katasuya Nopadayet Yadiriting Srama Evahi Kevalam. The occupational activities one performs, according to his or her own position, are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of God. So this instruction is applicable to everyone. Because some people have the wrong understanding. Some people think, if I just do my material duties, if I just take care of my family, if I just don't try to hurt anyone, and if I just try to be a good person, that's enough. That's not what Srimad Bhagavatam says. That's not what Bhagavad Gita says. Here, Sutta Goswami says, yes, you should do your occupational activities as a father, as a husband, as a wife, as a mother, as a student. You have occupational. Your duty is to study. Yes? Right? My friend Om here, he has his occupational duties. But that's not enough. Whatever you are doing, you have to ask yourself, am I becoming more God conscious? Am I becoming more inclined to hear the message of God? Otherwise, Sutta Goswami says, if you're not increasing your attraction for the message of God, Shrama evahi kevalam. You're wasting human form of life, spoiling it. He goes further. kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jigyasa nartho yascheha karma bi. So now Sutta Goswami says, life's desires should never be directed simply towards sense gratification. Rather, one should desire only a healthy life or a self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's work. Yes, if I'm simply living to satisfy my senses, that's no different than animal life. The animals are doing the same thing. So there has to be something distinguishing human life from animal life. And what is that? Inquiry into God. The animals cannot do that. Only human beings and those above human beings, they can inquire. Why? They have the facility. They have the capacity. So, inquiry into the absolute truth. Yes. Then, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami is instructing Maharaj Parikshit. He's going to give up his body within 7 days. The snake bird will come and burn his body. So Parikshit was very keen on hearing the absolute truth from Shukadev. And Shukadev was explaining Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the absolute truth in book form. So early in his instructions, Shukadev says, Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvating pati Srotavya kirtitavyascha Jaya pujascha nityada. With one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. The line, Bhagavan Satvatang Pati, the Lord who is the master of the devotees. So here, this is the same thing that is mentioned by Krishna a couple of times in Gita. So that's why we're here tonight. We're here to hear the message of Godhead. We're here to glorify. And by constantly hearing and chanting, you come to the stage of remembering. And later, when we do the arti, we will worship the form of the Lord. Now, there is an important instruction in Bhagavad Gita. If one follows these instructions I've been outlining, if one begins serious spiritual life, then there's something to remember at all times. Something Krishna says in chapter 2 of Bhagavad Gita, Nehabhikramana shosti pratyavayo na vidyate su alpam api dart asya dharmasya trayate mahato bayat. So in this endeavor, what endeavor? The endeavor for self-realization, the endeavor for spiritual pursuit, the endeavor for inquiry into the absolute truth, there is no loss or no diminution. Meaning, whatever you have learned, whatever you have accepted, whatever you have realized, permanent asset. And your stock will never go down. You will always have that boom of spiritual knowledge. And a little advancement on this path can protect one from the most dangerous type of fear. The most dangerous type of fear is the fear of losing the opportunity to improve one's existence. If one, by misuse of free will, has to take a low birth, lower than human, then your spiritual progress is temporarily checked. But once, after so many lifetimes, again you get the human form. Now you can pick up from where you left off. Yes. That's why it was easy for me, as I explained. I was not raised Hindu. But as soon as I came in contact, then immediately I wanted to improve. I wanted to become serious. So that is possible. And what is the most dangerous? Losing that chance. You lose that chance. So by following all the rules and regulations, you keep putting yourself in a better and better and better situation and facility to finish up your self-realization. In the Vedas, there is a path of liberation. It's called Apavarga Vartmani, the path of liberation. You go on the freeway, the 5 freeway, 57, 91, is going in a certain direction. You get in the freeway, you go. So there's also a spiritual freeway, Apavarga Vartmani, the path of liberation. And that path of liberation is explained in the Gita, is explained in the Bhagavatam. Just have to take advantage. Also in chapter 2, Krishna explains why somebody is not interested. Yes. Or you yourself may at times think, I'm not interested. Why does this happen? Why do I lose interest? Krishna gives the reason. Bhogaishvaya prasaktanam taya paritta chetasam vyavasayatmaka buddhi samadhavna vidhiyate. In the minds of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence, and who become bewildered by such things, then the resolute determination for devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. So, this is something to consider. How much time am I spending pursuing gratification of my senses? And how much time am I spending for my liberation, for my self-realization? I'll give my friend Arjuna as an example. So you're going to college, yes? So you know how much time you have to spend studying, right? If you don't study, you think you'll do good in the test? Huh? Sometimes? What are you, a born genius? No, you have to study and be very, very sharp. So that means you can't waste your time doing frivolous activities. Huh?
Sometimes they want to study only what is in the exam.
That won't last long. That's not going to last. Now, the next 2 verses I've selected is about the science of how one becomes fallen. Jayato vishayan pumsa Sangasteshu pajayate. Sangat sanjayate kama. Kamat krodo bijayate. Krodhad bhavati sammoha. Sammohat smriti vibramaha. Smriti brangshad buddhi nasho. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. When I studied this verse years and years and years ago, I understood, yes, the advertisers, they know this verse very well. You notice how they make their TV advertisements. It follows this science. What does Krishna say? While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment. So when they make these commercials, they make it very attractive. And they spend millions of dollars research, getting the right actors, getting the right script. They want to make that advertisement so attractive that you become bamboozled. And yes, from attachment, lust develops. Yes. Classic example, Ravana. Ravana is the classic example of who not to follow. Although nowadays, if Ravana was alive, they'd probably vote him for president. Sri RadhaRaman Bhagavan ki jai. But Subhadra Balaram Jagannath ki jai. Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki jai. Lord Nrsimha Bhagavan ki jai. Srila Gaur Nitai ki jai. Sri RadhaRaman ki jai. Gaur Premanande. So, Ravana saw Sita. Actually, he heard about Sita. And just by hearing, he became attached. What to speak of when he saw her. And so many times Ravana was told by his advisors, his ministers, his own brother Vibhishan. So many people tried to tell Ravana, Ravana, you are attached to this Sita, you're going to lose everything. But Ravana was too attached. He had developed lust for Sita, and that was his downfall. He lost everything. And when he was lying on the battleground, having been slain by Lord Ram, his wife, Mandodari, chastised him. Yes, statements are there. She chastised him. You fool! You did not know the power of Sita. You miscalculated. And look what happened. So, the science of this material world is, and Krishna says this also in Bhagavad Gita, material lust can never be satiated. The exact line in Gita, Dushparain Analena Cha. No amount of lust can ever be satiated. The example is given. We all know, we sometimes do the Homa, and you have your little kund, right? And the priest is chanting the mantras, and the wood is burning, and you throw your grains, and the priest is also adding ghee. The fire increases. So trying to satisfy lust is just like pouring ghee on fire. It'll only increase. So since lust can never be satisfied, Krishna says, therefore, you must become frustrated. No exceptions to the rule. To the degree I am involved in pursuing material sense gratification, to that degree, at some point, I'm going to be frustrated. And because I become frustrated, what happens next? Anger. Anger, yes. When anger arises, one becomes deluded. And from delusion, you lose memory of what you should and should not do. And when memory is lost, or when memory is bewildered, you lose your intelligence. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again, deeper into this material world. Again, you just have to think about Ravana. He lost his intelligence. He was advised, but he could not listen. Now, Krishna also gives some warning to all of us. Nasti buddhir ayuktasya na chayuktasya bhavana na cha bhavayata shantir ashantasya kuta sukam. Everyone wants happiness. Bhagavad Gita explains there are 3 different kinds of happiness. Happiness in the mode of ignorance, like Las Vegas. There's your happiness in the mode of ignorance. Happiness in the mode of passion, trying to enjoy. Here it is, Saturday night. Where is everybody? Party. Trying to enjoy. Then there's happiness in the mode of goodness. You have come here. You are also enjoying happiness, sitting peacefully, hearing the message of God. So Krishna says, someone who is not connected with God cannot have transcendental intelligence nor a steady mind, without which there is no possibility of peace. Peace means control the mind and senses. Peace is not something that you buy on Amazon.com. No. Peace is something you yourself achieve by controlling the mind and senses. And then Krishna says, if you're not peaceful, how can you be happy? Just like the thief. The thief may get away with robbing thousands of dollars, but he cannot be peaceful. Why? Because he knows at any moment I can be apprehended. There's no peace. Peace, you create your peace. Here you have come to the temple. You have come to see the deity. You are hearing this message. Now you have peace. Your senses are controlled. Actually, it begins with the mind. That's why Lord Chaitanya says, Chaito Darpana Marjanam. The best advice Lord Chaitanya gives all humanity. Chaito Darpana Marjanam. Cleanse your heart. Cleanse your mind. How? By chanting and hearing the name of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Simply by hearing and chanting, the mind becomes peaceful. The senses are controlled. This is what I do every day. I practice what I preach. First order of business. Hear and chant the name of God, become peaceful. Now, there is also practical information in the Gita to help us with our day-to-day life, because Premji has made that request. So this is very nice. In chapter 18, Krishna says, Adhishtanang tatakarta karanang chak pritag vidham vividhascha pritak cheshta daivang chaivatra panchamam. O mighty armed Arjuna, there are 5 causes for the accomplishment of all action. So this is scientific. Practical knowledge is there in Gita. So all of us are attempting different activities. There are 5 factors which determine whether or not you're going to be successful. Number 1, adhishtanam, the place of action, or your material body. Each of us has a different body and mind. So depending on how we apply our different senses and mind, that will have some effect on the outcome. Then, karta, the worker. So, as you are trying to implement your activity, you are the worker. Number 3, karanam, the various instrumental senses. So we have 5 knowledge acquiring senses. And with these senses, we are, what does Krishna say in Gita? Manakshastan indriyani prakriti-stani karshati. Yes, Krishna says everyone in this world is struggling. Struggling. That's the nature of this material existence. So we have different senses. Eyes, ears, nose, tongue, in the sense of touch. And then there's the 6th sense, the internal sense, the sense that we do not see, but we know it's present. The mind, the heart, consciousness. So depending on what kind of senses you have and your ability to use them, that also determines the outcome of your activity. Then, pritag vidham vividhascha pritak chesta, the many different kinds of endeavors. Yes, so many different material activities. They're all different, and you use your different senses accordingly. But then, so, you may have all 4 of these factors nicely organized. You may be at the top of your game. Your senses are sharp. You have given full enthusiasm to your activities. You have tried different endeavors, but still, the ultimate factor, Daivam, Krishna in the heart. That's the 5th factor. That determines everything. If Krishna is not pleased, you can try and try and try. You'll not be successful. But if Krishna is pleased, everything you do will be very successful. Battle of Kurukshetra. Arjuna and the Pandavas, they were outnumbered, am I correct? They were greatly outnumbered. And the Kauravas had great warriors, Karna, Bhishma, Duryodhana. These were exceptional fighters. But the Pandavas, especially Arjuna, had an ace up their sleeve. Somebody was sitting on Arjuna's chariot, not fighting, just driving his chariot. And that was Krishna. The same Krishna that is in your heart. Same Krishna. Not different. That my Krishna is different than your Krishna. No. The Krishna in my heart is the same Krishna in your heart. So because Arjuna had Krishna driving his chariot, all success was there. So if one understands this verse and accepts its conclusion, then one does the following. In any activity that one does, one definitely utilizes all the material aspects, but knows ultimately my success is dependent on Krishna. Therefore, an intelligent person, while doing his or her activities, is always remembering Krishna. And that is Krishna's instruction in chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's instruction is, my dear Arjuna, I want you to fight this battle, but at the same time, remember me. So whether I'm a student, whether I'm a businessman, whether I'm a Hindu priest, a preacher, a mother, wife, daughter, whatever your lot in life, yes, you have to do your activities and you must do them conscientiously, but at the same time, remember Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Now, there is some nice information towards the end of Bhagavad Gita. Because some people think, oh, I was born in a very low position. There's no hope for me for spiritual perfection. No, that's not what Krishna says. Krishna says in chapter 18, Sway sway karmani abhirata Sangsiddhing labate nara Swakarma nirata siddhing Yata vindati tats srinu. So Krishna tells Arjuna, no, anyone and everyone can become perfect, whether they're a Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra, man, woman, child. Everyone can become perfect. Krishna says, Tat Srinu. Now listen, Arjuna, I'm going to tell you how. That's the question. Krishna is saying everyone can become perfect. Naturally, the next question is, okay, how? Yata pravittir bhutanang yena sarvam idam tatam swakarmanatam abhyarcha siddhing vindati manava. Krishna says, by worship of God, who is the source of all beings and who is all-pervading, a person can attain perfection through performing his or her own work. By worship of God. And just in case you have any doubts about that, worship of God in this Kali Yuga has been made easy. Easy, easy. He couldn't make it any easier. Simply chant God's holy name. That's it. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Or, when we do the arti, that's also worship of the Lord. When we do any kind of devotional activity, that's worship of the Lord. Prem and Veena were cooking for the Lord today. That's worship of the Lord. Thank you for worshiping the Lord. By your worship, we are going to benefit. Yes, that's why Krishna said in the Gita, Yat karoshi yadashnasi, yat johosi dadasi yat tapasyasya kauteya, tat karushva mad arpanam. Krishna made it very simple. Arjuna, if you eat something, offer it to me. If you do some penance, do it for me. If you do anything you do, offer to me. So, Krishna gives a warning in the Bhagavad Gita that one has to be very careful. I talked earlier, a few minutes ago, about the path of liberation, Apavarga Vartmani. But there's another path, because you know, the freeway goes in two directions, north and south, east and west. So, there is one path, which I mentioned, the path of liberation. But then there's another path called the Royal Road to Hell. It's real. And Krishna says there are 3 exits. You know, on the freeway, you get to some cities, they have more than one exit because it's a big city. So for hell, 3 exits. Tri bidhang narakasyedam dwarang nashanam atmanaha kama krodas tatat lobas tasmad etat trayang tyajit. Krishna says there are 3 gates, dwara, 3 gates leading to hell: lust, anger, greed. Now, Prabhupada translates, every sane human being should give up these 3 things, for they lead to the degradation of the soul. So these 3 gates we avoid. Then, at the end of chapter 16, Krishna gives us practical advice how to live our lives. Tasmat chastrang pramanang te karya karya vyavastitao gyatva shastra vidhan noktam karma kartum iharhasi. So Krishna in chapter 16 explains the difference between devotees and demons. And he explains them by their symptoms, by their qualities, not by how they dress or how they look. No. By your, even the Bible, Jesus said, by their deeds you will know who they are. So that's the same teaching of the Vedas. Someone is judged by their actions. Even Narada Muni told Yudhisthira, Yasyayal lakshanam proktam. You judge a thing by its qualities, by its characteristics. So Krishna says here, one should therefore understand what is duty and what is not duty by the regulations of the scriptures. In other words, you cannot make up your own religion. No. That is going to take you to hell. If you make up your own rules and regulations, that's under the category of lust, anger, and greed. No. Just like there are laws of California, laws of the United States. You follow the laws, nothing to worry about. You break the law, indictments. Bound to happen. We're seeing it played out day in and day out. So if you follow the scriptures, you'll be okay. If you violate the scriptures, no, you will not be. You will be implicated. You will be indicted. And that indictment will come at the time of death. Yamaraj will come with his assistants. Just ask Ajamila. He'll tell you the whole story, what happens. So, some people will ask, all right, you want me to follow, so can you give me something easy? Yes, we already mentioned. That's why this final statement of tonight. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Iti Shodashakang Namnang, Kali Kalmasha Nashanang, Natak Parataro Paya, Sarva Vedeshu Drishyate. From the Upanishads, it says here, the 32 syllables or 16 words of the Hare Krishna mantra are especially meant for counteracting the sins of this age of Kali. To save oneself from the contamination of this age, there is no alternative but to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. After searching through all the Vedic literatures, one will not be able to find a method of religion for this age so sublime as the chanting of Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Everybody chant loudly.